sufficient to use 3 points for this graph? No. I need a fourth one. How do I decide which fourth one I'm going to use? If it's decaying or growing. So is this graph going to decay or grow? How do you know? Because it's a fractional base. Good. Since it's decaying, what additional x value will I use? -2 is a safe one. You could use -3. You could use -4. Remember to stay pretty close to home, so we ensure that it fits on the graph. So we are going to use -1, 0, 1, and then -2 because I need 4 points. We're going to do this in steps because I always see mistakes happen if we try to do it all at once. So this is going to be 1/4 times 1/7 raised to the -1 power. I'm going to do the 1/7 to the -1 power first. We flip it and raise it to the first power. So when I flip it, it becomes 7/1 raised to the first power, which is just 7/1. When I multiply two fractions together, we multiply straight across. So 1/4 times 7 is 7/4. Or you could write it as a decimal, 1.75. It is whatever you are comfortable with because we're graphing it, so it really doesn't matter. Some people don't recognize, though, that like 7/4 would be between 1 and 2, but they might recognize it in the decimal form. So that's why it's whatever you are comfortable with. Anybody super confused by how we got 1 3/4 there? Does that make sense? We have to do it in steps to ensure we get the correct answer. So let's do that whole thing again, but this time we're going to use 0 as our exponent. So I still have 1/4 times 1/7 to the 0 power. I'm going to do 1/7 to the 0 power first, which is just 1. So I get 1/4 times 1, which just equals 1/4. You could also turn that into the decimal. 0.25 is entirely your choice. Questions so far? Let's do the same thing with the exponent 1. So I'm going to get 1/4 times 1/7 to the first power. We do the base to the exponent first. What is 1/7 to the 1 power? 1/7. So I get 1/4 times 1/7, which becomes 1/28, and we could write that as a decimal as well because it's going to be very small. And that's going to be 0.04. How do you flip it to a decimal? Yeah. So I just did 1 divided by 28. Yeah. Yeah. Every fraction is the same as a division problem. That's what I thought. Questions, concerns, or issues so far? We have one more to do, correct? Try it on your own first.
Oh, we do, don't we? Okay.
Try it on your own first. It should be a very large number. Well, large-ish. Probably like 4 or 5. It just depends on how comfortable you guys feel with it. That's all. Okay, Grant, talk me through this one. It's okay. What do you mean by I have to do the exponent first? Okay, so what is that -2 power going to do? What did the negative power do on this one? What happened from here to here? it flipped a fraction and turned positive, right? So this becomes 1/4 times 7/1 to the positive 2 power. We're still doing the 7/1 to the squared first. What's 7 squared, Grant? Yeah, so what's 7 to the 2 power? Yes. And then 1 squared is just 1, so 49/1 is just 49/1. So I get 1/4 times 49/1, which we can multiply together to get 49/4. This one is definitely better as a decimal. What decimal is it? 12.25, so 12 and 1/4. No, it went to the denominator as well, but 1 squared is just 1.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't believe I will ever give you a fraction that has a number other than 1 opposite the number in the base. Yes, because that's just, it's too much. We don't need that. If it makes you feel better, I do it to my honors kids then. I'm a little mean to them.
Yeah, and you wonder why Cohen didn't take the honors class.
Come on, it would have been fun.
But not a.
I really feel like fun is the.
It is, it's very
This class
subjective.
is-
It is.
No, I think it's for everybody. Get your hands on.
Yeah, my fun is way different than your guys'
It makes
fun.
you think about,
It's like math puzzles.
Yeah.
Don't make it fun. Come on, it's
Well, my
enjoyable.
mom is the same way.
Okay, so let's finish this out. These are all graphable values. They're small and they're decimals, but can all go on a graph. We just have to approximate where they exist. So let's draw our graph. I'm going to go from -2 to 2, and then my y-axis has to go all the way up to 13. And then we're just going to do our best to approximate it. So the first one I put down is -1, 1.75. So I go to -1, and I go up between 1 and 2 because that's approximately where 1 3/4 exists. It doesn't have to be exact because it's very hard to do that when you're hand drawing your own graph. But we should be able to get as close as possible. When I plug in 0, I get 1/4. So I go to 0, and I go to approximately where 0.25 or 1/4 is. We're guesstimating, yes. Then we go to +1, which was 0.04, which is basically 0. So it's okay if you put that right at 0. And then my last one was -2, 12.25, which is between 12 and 13. So I go to -2, I go up between 12 and 13, and I guesstimate the 0.04 because it's so incredibly small. Yes. 5 minutes, not too bad. Okay, so we have our 4 points. We have to draw our curve, and then we are finished.
Woohoo.
No.
Oh.
Questions, concerns, or issues with that one? I try. I think that we're just going to do one more. I think that would be sufficient. And then I'll let you guys focus on the homework. This is the last lesson that we are covering. So tomorrow is going to be review. Thursday will be review, and then Friday will be your test. Make sure, or your quiz. I'm sorry. No, is it a test? It's a test. Just kidding. Yes. Friday will be your test. Please do not forget. So starting tomorrow, you will also start making your cheat sheets. So keep in mind the problems that you really struggle with on this homework. Is anybody still writing this one? Okay, so the last one I think we're going to do, because they're all pretty much the same, is we are going to do y equals -2 times 2 to the x power. If you didn't do one of the ones that's going to open down, this is one of those. What's the first thing I check for? Anything grouped in with my x? Is there anything there?
No.
No. So which values will I know that I'm going to use?
0, 1, -1.
0, 1, -1. Brandon Bailey is not allowed to answer anymore.
Woohoo!
So I have -1, 0, and 1. Is it sufficient to have 3 points on my graph?
No.
No. Emily, what fourth point am I going to use and how do you know? -2 or +2, sorry. Why +2?
Because it's not a fraction.
It's not a fraction, which means it's a growth function. So as I go to the right, it's going to continue to grow or get higher y values. So +2 is a perfectly respectable number to go ahead and plug in. So then I just start plugging it in, right? I'm going to plug in -1 first. When I do, I get -2 times 2 to the -1 power. Just like before, we're going to do this in steps. So I'm going to do 2 to the -1 first. What is 2 to the -1? What happens anytime we have a negative exponent? It flips and the exponent becomes positive. So this becomes -2 times 1/2 to the +1. What's 1/2 to the 1 power?
1/2.
Just 1/2, right? 1/2. So then I do -2 times 1/2, and what do I get? Ebony.
Since -2 is basically the same thing as -2 and 1. Those you get -2, 2, or it could be like -2 or no.
The numerator is negative, the bottom is positive.
-1, that's what I meant.
Yep. So she is correct. We can assume that anytime we have a whole number out front, it's that number over 1 because that's how we write a whole number as a fraction. So we turn to -2 into -2 over 1. When it multiplies into the 1/2, we multiply the numerator straight across, and we multiply the denominator straight across. When we do, we get -2 over 2. Because the top and the bottom match, they cancel, and I'm left with a negative whole number 1. Questions on that one? Next one. I have -2 times 2 to the 0 power. Which part of this am I going to deal with first? Which one? The exponent. So it's 2 to the 0 power, Heath. 1. So I get -2 times 1, and that equals -2. Ariana, what is going to happen when I plug 1 in for my exponent? Okay, so then I'm going to multiply what two things together? And I get -4. 2 to the 1 is just 2 times -2 equals -4. And then our last one, I have -2 times 2 to the 2nd power. Hannah, which one of these am I going to do first? Okay, so what happens when I take 2 and square it? I get 4, and then what do I do with that 4? -8, good. So we end up with -2 times 4 because 2 squared is 4. -2 times 4 is -8. I have my 4 points, and now I can go ahead and graph them. We just go ahead and start plotting the points. When I plugged in -1, my answer was -1. So I go to -1, -1, and I put my dot. When I plugged in 0, my answer was -2. So I go to 0 and then down to -2. When I plugged in 1, I got -4. So I go to 1 and down to -4. And then when I plugged in 2, I got -8. So I go over to 2 and down to -8. I have my 4 points. I can draw my curve. And that's how you do one that goes down. It's only going down because the number out front was negative, yes. Yeah, it's really no different than anything we've already done. I think this is plenty. If you guys still have questions, I'm more than happy to answer you. Do you guys think we need to do any more examples as a class though? I will leave it up to you.
No.
No, we're feeling okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here if you have any questions. The rest of class is just homework time.